Welcome back to Self Built. Today we're working out with some broness going on.
Yeah.
We're going to be going through some old school rows that you may have seen, and I know there's some that you haven't seen. So we're going to take you through them, tell you how they're so awesome, and a couple of little tweaks I like to make here or there. And let's jump into the first one. We're going to be doing some deficit rows. So with it being deficit, you need something to stand on. In the old days, they would stand on like a bench. If I stood on a bench in my gym, my head would be through the roof, so it wouldn't work very well. So what I'm going to do is I've got some plates stacked up. I'll just lift the bar and step onto it. So it does take a little bit of effort. And the benefit that you get of doing a deficit is when you're using larger plates, when you're coming down, you can go completely parallel and get a good stretch without the plates hitting the floor. So it just gives you a super good stretch. And it also forces you just to get a really strong core at the same time. Because if your lower back is one of those weak links, this will help you out a bunch. But one thing I like to do is keep my weight on my heels, and then I kind of push my butt back a little bit. So there's really not as much strain on the lower back as you'd think. Then just make sure you get a really nice stretch at the bottom. Bring it up and try to hold it and control it on the way down. And this thing is a really good mass builder for those lats. A really good cue you should use whenever you're doing any type of row, but it especially helps when you're doing this type, is before you even get the bar off of the hooks or whenever you're picking it up, I like to try to pretend I'm pushing the bar through my legs, so that way it just helps engage those lats the whole time. And then I'll keep the bar pretty much traveling close to my body the whole time. Not only does that take stress off the lower back, but it really helps you just keep your mind on those lats the whole time, which lats can be a little difficult to get that muscle-mind connection. So if you do that, it'll help a lot. Second exercise that we're going to be doing are single arm lower cable rows. Back in the day, they would do it when they're standing, and you would get an extremely good stretch. So kind of how you do it is I basically pretend I'm starting like a lawnmower. So my opposing leg that's holding the weight or resistance will be in front of me, and then I'll just kind of rest my hand on it. And then as I'm pulling, not only am I going to be twisting slightly to get extra lat activation, but I'm also going to be rotating my wrist a little bit as you go. You'll just kind of feel it a little bit different. So doing it just like this gives you a huge range of motion to get some really good stretching and some muscle activation. But one way to make it just a little bit better is if you've got a bench, to sit down, it takes your legs out of the equation. For example, I did legs yesterday, so they're already pretty fatigued. And I don't need extra credit right now. So what I'm going to do is I'll have that same principle, opposite foot, to be for some stabilization. And then the other leg is going to be bent out, because otherwise my hand will hit my handle, and then just kind of do that twist and drive it back. This just helps you get more focus on your back and just really get some good growth and connection. Another nice thing is, since we were doing some rows recently, this gives your lower back a little bit of a break. Third and final exercise that we're doing, I can guarantee that probably 99% of you have never seen. This is one that I recently learned of, and I was really curious because it seemed dangerous when you first think about it, but there's been kind of a resurgence of this type of training that I've seen. What I'm talking about are cat rows. So what we're going to be doing, are you going to be doing rows? You can use barbell, dumbbell, cables, anything really, but you're going to be keeping your back arched like a cat. And this is something that I would recommend being very careful with and knowing what your limits are. I've been seeing a huge resurgence of people doing deadlifts with rounded backs and preaching the benefits. And this is something that I would just say, go very slow and take it easy. A lot of people say, oh, when you do rounded backs, it's actually better than doing traditional. Now, I don't know about that, but I do know when you're doing cat rows that it does isolate your lats more than you're usually doing, because what it's doing is it takes your lower back out of the equation, so you're not having to stabilize as much. And I would also say do this at the last exercise, so that way you're not having to use much weight to stress your back with. So it's I'm still kind of getting used to doing what I think is bad form. So I'll be like this, and I like to keep the weight just close to my side like this anyway, because if I have my weight out, it puts more strain on the back. So I'll just keep it here because it saves the lower back and it already activates your lats. And then I'll just bring it up. And so what I noticed from going from here as opposed to like this is I'm not focusing on keeping my spine erectors strong. And this just helps me focus on lats just that much more. There's an old strong man from the 50s that used to do this with about 500 pounds. His name was Doug Hepburn. There's very little information about cat rows. I even tried to find information on YouTube, and there's nothing on here, so you saw it here first. Cat rows. Oof. 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 Ah. It definitely feels weird because I'm so used to having a strong back for all these things, but I'll try it out. I mean, with everyone, well, not everyone, but some certain people are really enjoying doing rounded back deadlifts. This is just kind of an extension of that. So if you are curious, try it out. If it doesn't sound good, don't do it. This is just informing you of an old school workout that you've never seen. And that brings us to the end of this video. So I hope you learned some new sweet exercises, got you curious to try some more. Curious like a cat. Meow. As for me, I always love to try new exercises and get a good variety and toolbox of different exercises you can be doing just because it makes it more fun. So try these out. Go lightweight with the cats. If you like the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I thank my brother for giving me a killer workout. And to punch one more ticket on that gain train, don't forget to tune in for more sale.